I just watched. Oh my! I just watched an amazingly like I've been watching these videos. You know, y'all. I'm into my stuff. So I just watched this video, and I just want to say something and help people understand something, and maybe it will help y'all progress. Let's see. Okay, the thing about religion. Religio is a word that means to be divided. The thing about religion is it was created and doctrinized so to divide people, to keep people from coming to know who they truly are, whether they are this nation, that ethnicity, whatever, whatever, whatever. You understand? There's so many new religions being made by mankind every millisecond. There's smaller ones, smaller ones. There's just that there's bigger ones because they're more popularized. But the fact about religion, and we could talk hysterically or we could talk about most recently. Well, I'm going to talk about most recently and then we'll go hysterically because most recently, religion is only being used for drug addicts, alcoholics, and prostitutes. Did you know that? Yeah, people who are tentatively referred to a church or a body of religious people, they're usually referred, oh, excuse me, and also for people who tentatively coming out of incarceration or who are incarcerated. Okay? I didn't want to forget you all. These are people who are labeled by society as needing Jesus, so to say, or needing God, so to say. And you could take into context the fact that okay, a person who may be dealing with addiction, they may have been introduced to addiction, they may be forced into addiction, or they may have willingly gone into using substances that have caused them addictions. People who have gambling problems, people who have sexual addictions, people sexual addictions like prostitutes and whoremongers, people who go out and they're having sex all the time. Anyone, they don't care how. They do it for money, they do it for just to get to the next level in life. A lot of people get referred, you know, people who have been incarcerated. They've committed petty crimes up to major, like they could be career criminal level. These are people who are constantly, if you look into the prison system, a lot of people, when they get imprisonated, what's the main, come on, because I know y'all know the answer. We're going to do a little trivia here. What is the main religion or way of life for those who don't want to be related as a religion that people who are incarcerated go towards? Becoming Muslim, especially in the prison systems. Especially in the prison systems. The majority of people are of the Muslim faith and lifestyle. Prior to that, most people they get introduced to the Holy Bible, to become Christianized. But what happens with most people, if they're incarcerated and they get introduced to Christian lifestyle, they fall short of it mostly because it condemns a lot of the things that they have already been knowingly guilty of in life, and they don't want to sit with a book that says you did this, you're going to hell, you did that, you're going to hell, there is no redemption for you, or that, oh, you have to believe, when deep in their heart they don't believe because they are living with the guilt of their actions and their decisions that they made. So it's really hard for them to convert into Christianity, and some, they have a hard time becoming Muslim because they they don't want to keep the laws that are established. Ask Minister Farrakhan. Ask Minister Farrakhan. Shout out to Minister Farrakhan because he'll tell y'all quick, fast, and in a hurry about the Hebrew Israelites. A lot of people, y'all sleeping, but I'm a Hebrew Israelite, and I'm not saying this to make nobody feel no type of way. I just need you to understand clearly. I am not of no religion. I know who I am, and I watch a lot of things through observance, and that's, my hands are washed. I ain't stirring nobody's pot. Now, that's one thing is religion. So you have to understand that religion is a huge, it is a huge tool, used in modern and even our historical societies to control people, to keep them from doing what somebody else may consider wickedness, or just to control them in general for their money. They're in vulnerable situations. You got to understand a person who has been prostituted or abused all of their life, who has now become addicted to drugs and alcohol, or pill popping, or gambling. It may be extremely hard for them to find that balance in life where they actually feel worthy, and so they are introduced to religion to help them realize who, that there is some type of forgiveness for the things that they've done to help them cope with life. Now I watch this doctrine, and a lot of people they debate, and people are very stiff-hearted. They're stiff-hearted, they're stiff-necked. They do not want to listen to what no one else has to say because they believe they've tapped into the right thing. And you have to be considerate, not respectable. I'm not telling you to respect this or respect that, but you have to consider. In other words, you have to at least let it cross your mind. That's what I'm saying when I say considerate. You have to be considerate to the simple fact that a lot of people, if they were raised under a certain way of life and that's all they know, it's really hard for them to step away from it. Or if they were introduced to another way of life after being raised a certain way of life that maybe growing up they said, I found some discrepancies, or I don't, or because it's tied to their past. A lot of times that's why a lot of people leave their original way of life, is because it's tied to their past. It's not because it's not the right way of life. It's just that a lot of times it's tied to a past that they don't want to be affiliated with. They want a whole new start. And can you blame anyone for wanting a clean slate? Can you blame anyone who truly is seeking God, who truly is seeking salvation, to really want to start from scratch in their minds and have that spiritual baptism where they feel that they have been forgiven of their past and they are, in a situation where they can move forward in life and start brand new as if nothing ever happened, right? So you have to always consider that too when you're speaking to people and you're trying to interact with them. When people talk to me about their way of life, I usually will let them talk for a short while. And if I get the inkling that they are trying to sway me to, join their fellowship or come to their church and things like that, lots of time I will let them know my way of life condones certain things, and that if you ever see me in those places, I'm not there on my free will. I'm there to do God's will specifically, no matter what it looks like on the outside, right? So, like I said, always understand this one thing. Putting judgment upon other people without really knowing their path that they've gotten to where they are, it's going to be the stumbling block that keeps you from reaching them, because you have to have a form of consideration to consider what got them to this point. What has them in the situation or the mental state that they're in, that they refuse to even listen to you. I just now listened to a documentary, and it consisted of Jehovah's Witnesses, and it consisted of Black Hebrew Israelites. And I listened and I listened and I listened, and both sides, they didn't want to budge. Everyone was set in, this is what I believe, and I just want to read the scriptures to you. And this side kind of listened, and this side kind of listened. It's like they both kind of listened, but they both came to the same term. You're not finna make me change my mind. I'm not finna make you change your mind. Even though the Black Hebrew Israelites, they were being considerate and say, you never know, you might change my mind. And I'm gonna tell you, as a Hebrew Israelite, even growing up all these years, I've always told people, if you can come and you can convince me that your way of life is the correct way of life, Okay. But until then, I'm sticking to what I prayed on and God answered. You see? And that's another thing. People have to realize some people really pray and that's the answer they get. If you are brought into a fellowship or you are brought into a group of people that makes you feel welcome and they help you when you have struggling times, they don't make you feel bad for your past decisions, they're not constantly shaking their finger at you, they're not constantly trying to make you feel dumb or illiterate for not knowing what they already know that they had to come to learn, right? That's another thing is when you are trying to bring someone to understand what you're doing in life, you can't make people feel small. You can't. Making them feel small is not going to help you. Now it's a different story if they're being disrespectful, dishonorable, and they're shunning. If they're shunning you, then it's like, okay, well, it's no reaching you. I see it in your eyes, and we're not gonna get to you. I hear it in your voice tone. We're not gonna get to you. So it's okay because we already know what we know, and we're not forcing nothing on nobody. Um, so those are some of the things. Consider the fact that a lot of people they are pre-programmed, so to say. No one likes to be called pre-programmed or puppets and stuff like that. No one likes to be called cults, but it doesn't matter what way of life or what religion you have, it's always going to be called a cult. If you're a Mormon, they're going to call you a cult. If you're a Hebrew Israelite, they're going to call you a cult. If you're a Muslim, they're going to call you a cult. Or they might call you terrorist. No disrespect, but y'all know good and well all the Muslims in times past and even currently, they're always referred to as terrorists. Um, if you're a Christian, they're going to call you a cult. If you are a Latter-day Saint, they're going to call you a cult. You're a Jehovah's Witness, they're going to call you a cult. What are some of the other Presbyterians, Episcopal? It doesn't matter what kind of branch of the, I guess, the way of life you choose for yourself or have come to know, they're going to call you a cult. Because one thing that is universal about the Bible is that if your way of life or doctrine of study that you're reading or basing your decisions off of, they all have the same premise. Even Buddhists, and they all have the same premise. You need to learn who you are, stick to who you are, live who you are, and don't let nobody try to force you out of who you are. They all have that same premise. So tentatively everyone's going to look at this one or that one or that one or this one as a cult simply because they all have the same based premise. Is that not true? Except atheists and atheists, they're the only ones that don't have that because they either believe there is no God or believe they are the God. But I bet you they believe it to the core, right? So it's just something to consider. It's not necessarily um, something that is controversial. It's just something that's informative that can help people process and make adjustments to their presentations, make adjustments to their tone, make adjustments to different scriptures that they feel they may have to bring out to actually get to someone. Because trust me, this is another blanket thing about ways of life and religion is everybody who truly believes in what they have studied or learned, if they're serious about what they are living, they have a dedication to wanting to help as many people that it applies to as possible to get them to be right, to get them to be on what they would consider the correct side of life. So you have to understand that that is also a universal thing about what is referred to as ways of life or religions and things of that nature. So keeping those things in context and keeping those things in your mind will help you with your presentation. It will help you delegate when someone is saying, "Oh, I don't want to hear that because this is that and the third." You got to sit back and think, well, guess what? What if this is all this person ever heard? And now me talking to them makes them feel like I'm badgering them and trying to force them to live like me, and that scares them because now you're taking them away from what is considered their comfort zone. Or where if they feel that you don't know what you they don't feel that you know what you're talking about because you weren't there for them during a rough time, and this other way of life or this other religion was. So therefore they're like, you can't possibly have the truth because you weren't there. Now one thing that everything that's the same is you're gonna struggle. You're going to go through times where life is not the most perfect, but when you're loving and living correctly, those things are not going to tear you down or tear you apart at all. You will get through it. You will get through it, and you will stay on the correct path that was destined for you to travel upon. So those are things that are inevitable. That is the inevitable. So I just wanted to share that because of the fact that when you have a group of people and they're all reading from the Bible, whether it is a New Testament version, the Old Testament version, King James Testament version, the New International Version, the New Translation Version, the Revised Translation Version, the this person version, that person version. You know what I mean? Or then when you have other ways of life that don't live by the Holy Bible, but they have another doctrine which has a lot of similar values, but just brought on by different, I would say, characters, because the people in the Bible are characters. They are, people that have created something for us to envision in our minds, for us to envision the stories and the time frames of what they were experiencing and the dialect that they used and the attire that they wore and the foods that they ate and the circumstances that they were facing. They're characters. So it's the same thing no matter what doctrine that it is. There are characters in there, and those characters portray different stories and different instances that help to inspire people or help people guide them to do some of the things that might help them in the long run or in the immediate run. So it's just something that I just wanted to reflect because it's kind of crazy when you're watching these kinds of videos and people are all over the place with it. It's like you're over here, you're over here, y'all over there, y'all over there, and it's like I get what everyone's trying to do. This person's trying to defend what they believe. This person's trying to defend what they believe, but there is no structure to it. It's just okay. Everybody's okay. But what about this? What about that? And that's what makes people get defensive and put their wall up. Some people have their wall up because you're a stranger. Some people have their wall up because of your way of life. And some people have their wall up because they don't know enough to speak. To be quite honest, some people have their wall up because they don't even know what to say if you were to ask them. So they be like, I ain't saying nothing. I ain't interacting with nobody because they might say something and I don't even have a correct answer. And another thing that I think is horrible that people do are the trivial questions. It's horrible. I know I did a trivia at the beginning, but it's horrible when you are trying to teach someone something. Don't you know that even in a quiz in school, the teacher, the professor, the person who is the authoritative figure that is giving out information, don't you know that they at least first present the information to you first? And then the quiz part of it, the pop-up trivia part of it is that we want to see what you do or don't remember. But to just walk up to someone and say, hey, do you know this, that, and the third about yourself? Oh, or do you know what this, that, and the third is? And they're like, the fuck are you talking about? You just came out of nowhere and you're just straight throwing something at me. You don't even know where my mind is at. Shit, somebody could have just died in my family and I'm thinking about how I got to deal with their burial. I think you just talking about this, that, and the third. You don't even you're wild with it. There is no structure to it. Structure this. If you're gonna do it right. Just being all random all over the place, that look messy. And it shows to an intelligent person, someone of high intellect, is scanty, which means, in other words, you're not solid in your presentation. That means you're not solid in your walk of your faith. And when people are sitting there and they don't want to talk, I don't want to talk because I don't want to debate, and I don't want to talk because you ain't going to change my mind. You're not solid in what you believe. You're scared because intellectuals, they can exchange information without getting all riled up and without getting so frustrated that, all right, I don't want to talk about it anymore. At that point, you're being childish and immature. And it's going to show that you don't have enough knowledge to defend what you really claim that you believe, which is bad, because then that means you really are a puppet. That means that somebody is feeding you information and that you haven't stopped to study to show thyself approved. And if you're a person living by the Bible, that is one of the things that you're supposed to do every single day. If you are walking that walk and you are who you say you are, you're supposed to take it upon yourself to learn what it is without somebody sitting there breaking it down to you. Because I'm sorry, if somebody got to break it down to you that bad, you don't get it at all. You don't get it at all. That means that the only way you understand is when somebody's explaining it to you, which that's in one ear, out the other. That's what happens in school. How many of y'all remember every single thing your teacher told you in school, from pre-K up into graduation year? And for those of you who have gone through colleges and university, how many of y'all remember a lick of all of those details that you've learned throughout the years? You remember here and there, right? You remember a couple of things, but you don't remember every single word, every single phrase, every single paraphrase. You don't remember all of that. You don't. You don't. Because our minds are designed to delete things that are not of importance to us. So the things that you can't recant and you can't remember is because it's not important to you. So your mind makes space for the things that are. So if I asked you on this date when you were in this grade, what was your teacher's name and what was the topic and what did this teacher say throughout the day? You're not going to remember that, especially if I'm digging in the crates and I'm telling you, yo, go all the way back to elementary school. Go all the way back to, you might be able to give a gist of what the typical day was like. Oh, yeah, on a typical day, we come in and we do this and we do that, we do that, we do this, da, 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 da. But you wouldn't be able to actually recant your whole entirety. And I say that not to make anyone feel incomplete or incompetent. I say that to help you understand and realize that when you're talking to other people and you are sharing your way of life with them and they are sharing their way of life with you, if neither of you have enough decency to hearken and listen to what they're talking about and them to allow you to talk and listen to what you're talking about, you're not going to get anywhere. Your voice is a vapor. That's your spirit. You're expiring your spirit. You're talking for no apparent reason and no one's paying no mind to it. You don't want to do that to yourself. So, again, put some more structure to it. No matter what your way of life is, put some real structure to it and stop commercializing. Stop commercializing. I can't say this anymore or any firmer. The Most High God. The Most High God is not a joke. So stop creating stories and videos and depictions, because that is blasphemy. Because you're creating something that isn't even 100% true. It's something new that you made up. And now everyone who watches or reads or takes in your account, now they have a new understanding. It might register what you're saying, but now their vision is what you just projected to them. And if it's not, if it's not the honest to goodness truth, that's really, really bad. It's super bad. So a lot of people, their ways of life they have videos, and it's like, why are y'all making videos? We have a whole Bible. If the Bible was your doctrine, you have the Torah. If you're a Muslim, you have the Holy Quran. I don't know what the Buddhists use. I don't know what some of these other ways of life uses, but those two ways of life I know. I know the Muslims use the Holy Quran, and I know that true Hebrew Israelites they use the scrolls, which is translated into the Holy Bible, mostly translated into the Holy Bible. And so everyone moves off of the doctrines that have been presented to them. But if you're not really taking the time, you're not doing the research of the words, the context of the words, if you're going around and letting somebody sit there and just feed to you, this is what this means, this is what that means. Wait a minute. What if that's what that means to them? It says lean not on your own understanding. So if that means, don't you go retranslating something without it being properly said. And some people, that's what they do. They start adding and saying extra stuff or taking away extra stuff. And now it has presented a whole new meaning. And that makes it hard for a lot of people who really are not going out there and studying on their own. It makes it hard. And some people go, oh, just like you have a tutor in school, you can have a Bible study partner or a study partner. And I'm just like, yeah, and usually people who use tutors, usually it's because they don't get it. And if that makes sense to you, something that is for you, you should get it. You should understand it like, oh, yeah, I get it. Somebody shouldn't have to sit there and help make you understand it. If they have to help make you understand it, that means they have to fix it to where your mindset can actually absorb it. Now, if that is what God requires of you, who am I to tell you not to do it or not to receive it? But I'm just saying, something that's for you, you should be able to understand it immediately. It should resonate with you like that. So go out there and remember, keep those things in mind, that people who are in these religions and some of the paths, that when y'all are out in the world and you're interacting, you got to understand that these people's personal lives is what's tying them to these different religions and ways of life. Not necessarily that they truly are believers. They just feel safe right now because maybe it's keeping them from doing something that they want to stop doing from their past. And sometimes, for humankind, we have to be kind of grateful to that, because, if you really care about the people in the world around you, you would want them to be able to take the proper steps to get themselves together. So as far as not making bad choices that hurt themselves and other people. So you gotta kind of give them credit where it's due, even if it's not what you agree to. Allow them to travel in a path that works for them. And yes, it's beautiful. Like I said, when people talk to me about their way of life, I really to some degree count it as beautiful, because I'm just like, the way I look at it is, this is a person who, whether they firmly believe or whether they just doing it because somebody said, this week you got to bring a friend to the congregation or to the church, right? Be careful. But I'm just saying, when I see people that are like that, in my heart, the good part of me, I always be like, wow, this is somebody who is so connected to what they're doing or what they believe, that they don't want me to be left out. In their mind, what they're doing is right, and they don't want me to be left out. And that's the beauty of it. It doesn't mean that I have to go and follow what they're doing or adhere to it and stuff like that. And if that's how you feel about, oh, I want to bring you around, you should never try to force somebody into what you feel is right for you, because what's right for you may not be right for someone else, and it is out of pocket. So just keep remembering that prayer works. Prayer works. Pray for people and keep your faith strong. Continue to do the things that you know you're supposed to do, so that way you can continue to receive your blessings. And when you are out there, be a good representation of what you truly believe. Just do that, and you'll see everything come into fruition. So I just wanted to share that with you all. Keep those things in mind when you are out there, and you have your zeal, and you're invigorated. You want to help bring people to see, you know, to see what your lifestyle is like, because everyone doesn't want to do what you're doing, and that's just the truth. Everyone doesn't want to do what you're doing, just like you don't want to do what everyone else is doing. So y'all stay safe, y'all stay blessed. I'm about to see if I can find some more documentaries and say some prayers of love, kindness, peace for this world, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and I can't control the world. Because if I could, I'd get rid of all the evil and I'd only leave good.